Quantum physics is often described as one of the most mysterious yet revolutionary areas of science. And one of its most fascinating insights is the idea that reality is shaped by observation and intention. This principle doesn't just live in academic research papers or the laboratories of physicists. It has implications that reach into our daily lives and the way we understand human potential. To grasp it fully, we need to step away from the classical view of the universe, where everything is made up of solid matter behaving in predictable ways, and instead look at the world through the lens of quantum theory, which reveals a universe built on probabilities, possibilities, and the strange but powerful role of consciousness. In classical physics, objects exist in specific locations and follow clear laws of cause and effect. If you throw a ball, you can calculate where it will land using formulas of motion and gravity. This worldview dominated science for centuries. But when scientists began studying matter at its smallest scales, the level of atoms and subatomic particles, they discovered that these rules no longer applied. Instead of behaving like tiny billiard balls, particles such as electrons acted more like waves of potential, existing in multiple possible states at once. This phenomenon is called superposition. An electron, for example, does not have a fixed location until it is measured. It exists in a cloud of probabilities, simultaneously occupying many places until observation collapses it into one outcome. This brings us to the famous double-slit experiment, a cornerstone of quantum physics that illustrates how observation affects reality. When particles are fired at a screen with two slits and no one is watching, they behave like waves, creating an interference pattern as if they traveled through both slits at once. But when scientists set up a measuring device to observe which slit the particles go through, the pattern changes. The particles behave like solid matter, going through only one slit. The mere act of observation alters the outcome. This experiment shook the foundations of science, suggesting that consciousness, or at least the act of measurement, plays a direct role in determining how the physical world unfolds. If reality at its most fundamental level is influenced by observation, then the human mind may not be as passive as we once believed. Intention, the focused direction of thought, appears to interact with the quantum field of possibilities. Instead of reality being something fixed and external, it becomes something more fluid, something responsive to the attention we give it. This is why many researchers and thinkers in both science and philosophy have begun to explore the idea that consciousness is not merely a byproduct of the brain, but a fundamental component of the universe itself. To understand how intention works in this framework, consider that thoughts are not just abstract ideas floating in our heads. Every thought generates a measurable frequency, and every emotion carries energy that radiates outward. When a person holds a strong intention, they're not just passively hoping for something to happen. They're projecting a signal into the quantum field, aligning themselves with certain possibilities rather than others. In this sense, observation is not limited to looking at an electron under a microscope. Observation, in human terms, includes awareness, focus, belief, and expectation. The implications of this principle are profound. If particles exist in a state of potential until they are observed, and if observation is tied to intention, then our lives may also exist in a field of potential outcomes, waiting for our awareness and choices to collapse them into reality. This doesn't mean that we can bend the laws of physics at will, but it does mean that our inner state, what we think, what we believe, what we expect, matters in shaping the events and circumstances we experience. A person who constantly focuses on failure, fear, or scarcity may, through their observation and intention, collapse reality into experiences that reflect those states of mind. On the other hand, a person who observes life with faith, clarity, and determination is more likely to align with outcomes that mirror those intentions. Scientists such as John Wheeler have even proposed that the universe might be participatory, that reality exists only because there are conscious observers within it. This idea, pushes us to rethink the role of human beings not as passive inhabitants of a mechanical universe, but as active participants in a quantum one. While mainstream science continues to debate these ideas, experiments in quantum mechanics keep reinforcing the strange truth. Reality does not exist in a fixed form independent of observation. At the smallest scales, it is our engagement with the universe that shapes how it appears. Even outside the laboratory, examples of this principle emerge in subtle but powerful ways. Athletes visualize winning before they step onto the field, and that mental observation seems to prime their performance. Patients with strong belief in recovery often defy medical expectations, hinting at the role of intention in healing. Innovators and creators hold visions of what does not yet exist, and through focus and observation, those visions collapse into reality as inventions, art, or social change. All of these examples echo the same underlying truth discovered in quantum physics. What we observe and the intentions we hold play a role in shaping the outcomes we encounter. This principle bridges the gap between science and human experience. It suggests that we are not powerless victims of circumstance, but co-creators with the universe itself. Observation is more than seeing. It is the conscious act of directing awareness. Intention is more than wishing. It is the focused energy that chooses among the infinite probabilities available in the quantum field. Together, observation and intention reveal that reality is not something entirely outside of us, but something deeply intertwined with the way we participate in it. Your thoughts and emotions act as frequencies that attract matching experiences, and this idea sits at the core of what many call quantum manifestation. To understand it, we must first recognize that everything in the universe is made of energy. From the largest galaxy to the smallest particle, energy vibrates at specific frequencies, and these vibrations determine how matter interacts and forms patterns. Human beings are no exception to this rule. Our bodies, brains, and even our thoughts generate electromagnetic activity measurable by science. Every idea we hold and every feeling we experience radiates outward as an energetic signal. When scientists measure brain activity, they see it expressed in the form of brain waves, electrical patterns that fluctuate at different speeds depending on our state of mind. For example, when we are calm and relaxed, the brain produces slower waves such as alpha or theta, while during stress or focus, it generates faster beta waves. These are literal frequencies that can be picked up and analyzed. Similarly, the heart generates its own electromagnetic field, and research from institutions like the HeartMath Institute suggests that emotions such as love, gratitude, or fear create distinct energetic patterns that influence not only our own physiology, but also the space around us. In this sense, thoughts and emotions are not just private, internal experiences. They are frequencies broadcast into the field of energy that connects everything. The principle of resonance helps explain how these frequencies might attract matching experiences. In physics, resonance occurs when one vibrating system influences another system to oscillate at the same frequency. A tuning fork struck in one room can cause another tuning fork of the same frequency to vibrate, even without. Similarly, when a person maintains a particular emotional or mental frequency, they resonate with external circumstances that match that state. A mind filled with optimism and gratitude resonates with opportunities, people, and events that align with those frequencies. A mind dominated by fear or resentment resonates with situations that mirror those lower vibrations. The universe, in this view, operates like a giant field of interconnected vibrations, and our personal frequencies determine which patterns we draw into our lives. This is not simply a mystical idea. Studies on the placebo effect show that belief and expectation, forms of thought and emotion, can influence the outcome of medical treatments. Patients who believe they are receiving real medicine often experience healing even when given inert substances, because their mental and emotional state creates physiological changes in the body. This demonstrates how powerful thought-driven frequencies can be in shaping reality at the personal level. Similarly, experiments on the effect of meditation and collective intention suggest that groups of people focusing on peace or harmony can measurably reduce crime rates or conflict in a given area, again pointing to the possibility that thoughts and emotions radiate outward in ways that shape collective experiences. The process works both positively and negatively. When a person constantly entertains thoughts of lack, doubt, or anger, those frequencies reinforce themselves and attract experiences that validate them. This is why cycles of negativity can feel so difficult to escape. The individual's energy is in harmony with circumstances that perpetuate the same emotional states. On the other hand, when someone intentionally cultivates gratitude, love, and clarity of vision, they create a frequency that draws supportive circumstances, helpful people, and unexpected opportunities. Just as a magnet pulls metal filings into a pattern, thoughts and emotions organize reality in ways that reflect their underlying vibration. Emotions in particular carry a potent charge. While thoughts might shape the blueprint of what we desire, emotions fuel the energy that brings it into alignment with our experience. A person may think about success, but if they feel unworthy or fearful, their dominant frequency will reflect those emotions rather than the surface thought. This is why emotional coherence, aligning what we think with what we feel, is so critical. When thought and emotion operate in harmony, the frequency is clear, powerful, and magnetic. This is the state in which intention becomes most effective because the individual is no longer sending out contradictory signals. Examples of this principle can be found in many aspects of daily life. A person who wakes up in a bad mood often finds that the rest of the day spirals into frustration, as their emotional frequency attracts minor annoyances that reinforce the initial state. Conversely, someone who begins the day with gratitude often experiences small acts of kindness, synchronicities, and positive outcomes that reflect their elevated emotional state. These are not coincidences, but demonstrations of resonance at work. The frequency we hold determines the experiences we draw in, and the cycle continues, either reinforcing negativity or amplifying positivity, depending on what we choose to maintain. At a deeper level, the idea that thoughts and emotions act as frequencies suggests that reality itself is participatory and responsive. Instead of seeing life as a series of random events, this perspective frames it as a mirror of our inner state. The outer world reflects the frequencies we project through thought and feeling, and by changing our inner vibrations, we change the experiences that meet us. This is why practices such as visualization, affirmations, meditation, and gratitude journaling are often recommended. They help shift the frequencies of thought and emotion, tuning the individual to resonate with higher and more constructive outcomes. From a quantum perspective, every possibility already exists in the field of potential, and the frequencies we generate determine which possibility collapses into our lived reality. Thoughts act as the directing signal. Emotions provide the energy, and together they attract experiences that match their vibration. Understanding this principle places great responsibility in our hands. It means that the quality of our thoughts and the emotional states we choose to cultivate are not trivial. They're the signals we continuously send into the quantum field, shaping not only our personal lives, but the larger reality we all share. Quantum manifestation bridges science and spirituality to create conscious outcomes, and it does so by bringing together two perspectives that have long seemed separate. On one side, science explores reality through observation, experimentation, and measurable data, while on the other, spirituality emphasizes the role of consciousness, intention, and connection with something greater than ourselves. When these two meet, a richer picture of reality emerges, one in which the material world and the inner world are not divided, but deeply intertwined. Science has long been built on the foundation of materialism, the idea that physical matter is the fundamental substance of reality and that consciousness is a byproduct of the brain. This perspective has produced enormous advances in technology, medicine, and industry. However, Quantum physics challenged this materialist worldview by revealing that matter itself is not solid, but composed of energy patterns and probabilities. At the subatomic level, particles do not exist as fixed entities until they are observed, and the act of observation appears to influence how reality takes shape. This opens the door to a radical conclusion. Consciousness is not an accidental product of matter, but an essential component of how reality unfolds. Spiritual traditions have long suggested that thought, intention, and awareness shape human experience. Teachings from Buddhism, Hinduism, mysticism, and indigenous wisdom traditions all emphasize that the inner world of mind and spirit directly affects the outer world of circumstances. These traditions have often used metaphors like vibration, energy, or divine will to describe the process. When modern quantum theory introduces concepts such as superposition, entanglement, and the observer effect, it provides scientific language that echoes these ancient teachings. The bridging of science and spirituality comes from recognizing that both are describing the same underlying reality, just through different frameworks. Quantum manifestation is the practice of using this bridge intentionally. Instead of treating thought as a passive activity, it reframes it as a tool for shaping outcomes. Science shows that energy responds to observation, and spirituality teaches that intention directs that energy. Together, they suggest that individuals have the ability to influence their lives by aligning their consciousness with the reality they wish to experience. Manifestation, in this sense, is not simply wishful thinking or blind faith. It is a process of consciously tuning one's mental and emotional state to the vibrational frequency of the desired outcome, so that it resonates into the field of potential and collapses into reality. One of the clearest demonstrations of this bridge can be seen in the placebo effect. Scientific research has repeatedly shown that belief alone can cause measurable healing in the body, even when no active treatment is given. Patients who expect recovery often improve, not because of external medicine, but because their inner state activates their body's capacity to heal. This phenomenon sits at the intersection of science and spirituality. It is measurable in laboratories, yet points to the profound influence of consciousness on matter. In the same way, quantum manifestation suggests that by directing belief, intention, and emotional energy, we can co-create outcomes beyond what traditional materialist thinking allows. Entanglement provides another lens through which science and spirituality connect. In quantum physics, entangled particles influence each other instantly across vast distances, defying the classical laws of space and time. This hints at a universe where separation is an illusion and everything is interconnected. Spiritual teachings echo this idea, emphasizing the oneness of existence and the interdependence of all beings. Manifestation operates within this interconnected web, where the thoughts and actions of one individual ripple outward, influencing not only personal outcomes, but also collective realities. The unity of science and spirituality in this context reveals a universe responsive to consciousness and built on connection. The practice of quantum manifestation involves aligning thoughts, emotions, and beliefs with a chosen outcome. From a scientific perspective, this can be understood as adjusting frequencies and collapsing probabilities in the quantum field. From the spiritual perspective, it is aligning with universal laws or divine will. Both point toward the same mechanism. Focused consciousness has the power to bring intangible possibilities into tangible form. Visualization, affirmations, meditation, and gratitude are tools that operate in both frameworks. They calm the mind, elevate emotional frequency, and direct intention toward a desired reality. Whether described in scientific terms as influencing energy fields or in spiritual terms as co-creating with the universe, the effect is the same. Examples of this bridge can be seen in the lives of many innovators, leaders, and creators. History is filled with individuals who held a vision long before it became reality and manifested outcomes that transformed the world. These people often combined rational knowledge with inner conviction. Scientists such as Albert Einstein, who acknowledge the role of imagination and intuition, and spiritual teachers who emphasize practical alignment with inner states, both illustrate the fusion of science and spirituality. Quantum manifestation simply names this process explicitly and encourages people to practice it with awareness. Critics may argue that manifestation is unscientific or purely subjective, but the growing body of evidence in quantum physics, neuroscience, and psychology suggests otherwise. Studies on neuroplasticity show that thoughts can physically rewire the brain. Research into epigenetics reveals that emotional states can influence gene expression. Experiments in quantum mechanics continually demonstrate that observation alters reality. All of these scientific findings support the spiritual claim that consciousness is creative. When combined, they create a model of reality where manifestation is not a mystical fantasy, but a natural consequence of how the universe works. Quantum manifestation, therefore, occupies the space where scientific discovery and spiritual wisdom overlap. It is not limited to abstract theory, but invites people to use this knowledge practically in daily life. By cultivating clarity of thought, emotional coherence, and intentional awareness, individuals align themselves with the possibilities they wish to experience. They bridge the measurable with the immeasurable, the physical with the metaphysical, and in doing so, they begin to see outcomes that reflect both their inner alignment and the universe's response.